Hey everyone, starting this week, we will be having a channel of talk show every week with Mayank Shekhar, entertainment head at midday and one of the most trusted voices among the critics in Bollywood industry. Welcome, Mayank. How are you doing?
Very good, man. Thanks for having me, Javan.
Sure. First thing first, Mayank, what did you watch over the weekend and in which order? Because there were a couple of major releases this week, right? So what was your order of watching?
Well, it was the August 15th or the Independence Day weekend. There are very few slots in a year where it's a national holiday of this sort. So obviously it was a big weekend. But मेरा ऐसा मानना है, it's an unsaid rule in my brain कि जितना पहले प्रेस को दिखाया जाता है फिल्म को, and by press I mean even influencers and all kinds of people who also sort of use social media to write their reviews, जितना पहले दिखाया जाता है उतना ही confident होते हैं वो लोग अपनी फिल्म को लेकर. Sometimes you watch a movie on a Monday when the film is going to release on the following Friday. But ये जो दोनों फिल्म जो थी इनको इनकी प्रेस रिव्यूज नहीं हुई, which means that they were kind of iffy about कि response कैसा आएगा from reviewers or critics as it were. So मुझे वो दोनों फिल्में मुझे थिएटर पर जाके देखनी पड़ी. And of course the first one that I watched was the one that I was the keenest to catch, which is Batwara 1947, Rajkumar Santoshi ki film, Amir Khan production, and Sunny Deol in the lead role. So, and of course the subject itself, which is partition. So सबसे पहले मैंने वो देखा first day, third show, and then and the second one I watched was Awarapan 2, purely because I want to know कि भैया लोग क्या देख रहे हैं और इतने सारे लोग देख रहे हैं. It's a packed halls across the board. It's a film with Emraan Hashmi जो बहुत साल बाद आई है with him in a lead role in the theater. And so what was the fuss about is why I went to watch that particular movie, because it's a landmark in its own right.
Great, great. And I think Awarapan has a special connection with RecoBee. We worked on it. We expected it to be a huge hit in terms of when its teaser came in. But then it was still lying low until the trailer arrived. And our final prediction was around 16, but I think it broke all records. So that is the beauty of movies, right? Like the audience pulse, you can say, what they are liking, what they want to see. And Imran Hashmi did that, right? What do you think, as in Awarapan 1 obviously was a flop, right? And what do you think was the reason of doing a sequel of a flop, which was never the trend, right? And
no, absolutely. I think Awarapan 2 might well be the world's first film where the sequel जो है वो इतनी successful रही है, और जो पहला जो film था was a supposed flop as it were, in the sense of कि अगर आपकी कोई particular film नहीं चलती है तो आप उसका फ्रेंचाइज क्यों बनाएंगे, बिकॉज उसकी पहली फिल्म के कोई फैंस नहीं है तो आप किसको लेके आ रहे हैं. एक कैप्टिव ऑडियंस बनती है, दैट इज व्हाई सीक्वल्स आर मेड. एंड सो इवन विद बिग बजट मूवीज वो अनाउंस करते हैं सेकंड पार्ट, थर्ड पार्ट. इवन व्हेन यू वॉच द मूवी in the end you'll see that they've kind of planned a sequel with it, but that sequel never comes because that film itself didn't do well. So they took a huge punt, and I think the punt that they took was not so much on Awarapan, but they took that punt on Emraan Hashmi. And Emraan Hashmi in a Vishesh films, which is like a Mukesh Bhatt, and now of course his son runs the company, and also father is also obviously around. But they had done a string of commercial successes in the 2000s, जहाँ पे there was a particular formula to it कि एक सूफी type music होगा, Pakistani singers होंगे, एक kiss जरूर होगा, which the audience will look forward to, and of course Emraan Hashmi होंगे, where he has a particular swag to him, and that connection was very strong, but then it died out. And the thing is वो एक फॉर्मूला था, बट साइंस में जो फॉर्मूला होता है वो कांस्टेंट होता है. पॉपुलर कल्चर में जो फॉर्मूला होता है वो साइक्लिकल होता है. वो आज चल नहीं रहा है बट कल फिर से वापस आ सकता है. एंड दैट्स अक्रॉस द बोर्ड. इट्स नॉट जस्ट फिल्म्स. फैशन को आप ले ले या किताबों को ले ले, हर बात में एक साइक्लिकल बात होती है उस फॉर्मूला को लेकर. एंड सो सो दे टुक दैट पंट, एंड आई थिंक इट रियली वर्कड आउट ब्यूटीफुली फॉर देम.
Yeah, and Imran Hashmi is never a critic actor, right? And obviously, as in more underrated, more a popular actor or masses actor. And like since couple of years, it's an era of comeback with Bobby Deol or Akshay Khanna in Durandar, right? What do you think, is the Imran Hashmi's turn to do that?
No, absolutely. I think that comebacks can also be explained, at least in the case of Imran Hashmi, for that matter, even a Bobby Deol, right?
Yeah.
That they kind of got a new audience with the whole OTT scene. And it's not like they were never around, but they did work and built a whole new fan base from a new generation from stuff that they did on the online space. And that's what happened with Imran. Agar aap Haq jaisi film dekhein, which was widely loved by a lot of people for the way it was handled, how sensitively the film was made, and it's typically a negative character, but it's a great performance, a hero-like performance in his own right. And then you take a series like Taskari, which was on the Indian customs, very authentically done. And of course, Imran was the center. But I think a turning point could well have been a show like Bads of Bollywood, जहाँ पर Raghav Juel का जो character है वो कहता है कि अखा Bollywood एक तरफ and the other side is Emraan Hashmi. That would make anyone wonder कि भाई ये Emraan Hashmi इतने बड़े star थे क्या? And सच में थे. So it's not he's making it up, right? There was a point in the 2000s जब अगर वो किसी भी शहर में चले जाएं, he could cause a serious mob riot because of his presence there. And with cosmic connection थी उनकी between the audience and the star, which is impossible to explain. It had a lot to do with the films and the kind of films he was doing, murder type filमें जहाँ पे there was a lot of sex and violence जो एक formula था उनका. But what people loved him, and it was impossible even for me to understand कि भाई क्या देख रहे हैं यार इस पे ये. And some of it could well be the fact that he seemed like a massy actor. जो साउथ में बहुत ज्यादा दिखते हैं, seemed like one of us. Not hugely, he didn't look like a Hrithik Roshan or something, but he was also getting the girl he wants. So the audience might be thinking कि भाई अगर ये हो सकता है तो मेरा भी कुछ हो सकता है. So there was that projection of his image which had worked hugely, and so there was a revival that happened of that persona, and I think that's what we see in Awarapan 2 as well.
Yeah, and I think you talked about formula, right? And I think Imran wasn't doing this kind of formula for a long time. I think he did it only around 2010s or so, right? Mostly with obviously Vishesh films and Mukesh, but whether it was Jannat 2 or Awarapan itself, right? So bringing this formula back after so many years, and as you said, cyclical, right? So does this work as a film or just a memory nostalgia, because the crowd has changed, the audience has changed a lot, right? But still, what do you think in that sense?
I think what works for the film, besides the hero himself, is that they stick to a particular template, which is a hardcore Bollywood picture का template जो होता है, जहाँ पे hero है, but hero से equally important villain है. And in fact, ये जो कहानी जो है, ये बिल्कुल villain की कहानी है. Emraan Hashmi is just a character who comes, goes to Bangkok to rescue a girl. But इनकी back story जो Awarapan 1 में होएगी, अगर आपको नहीं पता है, तब भी you can completely enjoy the film for its own worth, which is the villain's son, 2 sons, the villain's daughter, and then human trafficking that is going on, and all the action, the chase sequences, and of course the songs. So उसका जो एक वो मिश्रण होता है ना, वो कभी आता है कभी जाता है in terms of formula, but if that is what you're delivering on, I think they do a fair job of sort of sticking to their brief and executing it to the best way that they could. And there are certain set pieces that really work, in the sense this particular set piece I remember, which is set inside a container, and container के अंदर वो fight sequence है, shootouts हो रहे हैं, and then the bullets are going across the container, so you can see the light falling inside, and of course the chase sequences too. So by and large, I think what works is a Bollywood entertainer type movie, and that's what they aspired for, and that's what they delivered.
And again, speaking about the formula, right, with Sunny Deol in Batwara, Rajkumar Santoshi, Amir Khan backing it up, like it was supposed to be a good formula, right? And
I think it was not supposed to be formula. I think they were very sincere to what they wanted to make, you could even argue over sincere. But I have to say, Sunny Deol, Gadar 2, Border 2, and the kind of image that he had. He's in this film, and Amir Khan production, as it were. Rajkumar Santoshi ने बहुत सारी dramatic films दी हैं जो आज भी लोग याद करते हैं, whether it's Abdamini or घातक और घायल. But जब मैं गया थिएटर में तो कोई भी नहीं था, and that's why I realized कि भाई audience ना smell कर लेती है, and they just smell it, perhaps from the poster, perhaps from the trailer, more so from the trailer, and they simply didn't show up. And that is quite telling in its own right. And so, whether you like a film or not, but then you like or dislike it only when you come, and they didn't.
So I think they didn't have premiere. Both of them didn't have premiere, right? And a precedent with Vaapas Aaunga was that word of mouth based on the content can be a good thing. I think they were, at least I think Batwara was banking on word of mouth in terms of the content.
That's one way of looking at it. But that's not how it worked out. But given that it's a mainstream film and it doesn't get as mainstream in terms of its star cast, in terms of director, in terms of producer, it was pretty subdued from that. And in fact, when I came out of the film, I was just wondering in my head, what if this was a hardcore art house film only? And without Sunny in it, say a film like a series like Tamas, which was made by Govind Nihalani, and Govind Nihalani, this film is dedicated to him because he was Rajkumar Santosh's mentor. Or what if it was a film like Earth, while Amir Khan was in it, but it's a very art house film, and Amir is of course produced Batwara as well. I'm not even going into MS Satyu's masterpiece, that is Garam Hawa, back in 1974, because these are all partition movies, as it were. Would I have enjoyed it more? Maybe. The entire setting is Lahore, right? And it's a purely a script from a local point of view of people who were in Lahore at the time. And of course, the only people who were in Lahore knew is Sunny's character, which is Mirza and his family. So what if this was a Pakistani film from that perspective? Looking at partition from across the border, would I have been drawn to this movie more? Maybe, right? But I think what it ends up becoming is a slightly confused movie. So it might leave the Sunny, the old hardcore Sunny super sound wale jo fans hain, वो may be disappointed purely because कभी 2-3 sequences हैं जहाँ पे वो हवा पे सब उड़ रहे हैं और वो पीट रहा है, वो unrealistic action है, but film तो realistic है यार. And जो realistic cinema पे ज़्यादा के हिसाब से अगर वो देख रहे होंगे तो बोले यार ये क्या चल रहा है यार. So it might disappoint both types of likely audiences for a film like this, but it has a few great things going for it, and I think the conversation that the movie is trying to make is very important about humanity over politics, or about not mixing religion and politics, about religious coexistence, about religion itself, about how it argues for mutual respect and empathy. So ये जो बातें हैं ये बहुत ज़रूरी हैं, and you should laud the intentions of the film sometimes, and these are those times.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. I think because obviously with back-to-back partition movies after my Vaapas Aaunga, right? It like 80 years after independence, long time, right? It's very difficult to even imagine what must have been going as in through the people during that time with no social media. A lot of things was there in my Vaapas Aaunga is stressing on that fact that
absolutely. I think one of the things that Imtiaz Ali got right with my Vaapas Aaunga is the fact कि इतने साल हो चुके हैं, because it's a very it's a moment in history which is hard to explain. Millions displaced, millions dead. But ये आज की generation उसे क्या ले? Like what can they? So he figured out a way in which to tell the story in the present, contemporize it for a young generation, and then take it to the past, which they have not bothered to do. One, second, ये बंटवारा जो है ये based है on a play by Asghar Wajahat की play है जिसने लाहौर नहीं देखा वो जन्मा नहीं. That was also the playwright जो है वो उन्होंने इनकी पिछली प्ले पर भी राजकुमार संतोषी की पिछली फिल्म बनी थी which was गांधी गोडसे जो 2023 में आई थी, and it was a very chatty film, very indoorsy film. तो वो मुझे यहाँ पे भी लगा कि it's not cinematic enough. That music का use इस्तेमाल करना, you have A.R. Rahman, I don't sense it, and it really music is a very important element when you're telling the broad story in broad strokes to draw you inside. तो वो मुझे लगा नहीं, and it felt pretty dull and claustrophobic in certain parts. लगा थोड़ा fresh air दो यार. So that is the difference between these two films, because the story is not so important in cinema. What's more important than the story is the telling of it. And I think my Vaapas Aaunga did a better job with the telling of the story than Batwara did.
That's amazing. That's a very remarkable point in terms of storytelling, how it is given to the audience, and that is where I think the trailer also hampered, and that's the first step, right? Obviously you need to entice the audience by trailer, which Awarapan did a lot better in terms of the setup, music setup or the trailer setup, and that's why the turnout of the audience was there. But yeah, given then there's a space for both, right? If someone wants to go,
no, absolutely. The beauty of both these films is they're so different from each other, and and movies should survive longer than a few weeks here in the theater. Let people get that chance. आप पहले दिन ही देखने जाएंगे और उसके बाद आपको मन ही नहीं करेगा ये कौन सा लॉजिक है, right? So in that sense, I think their audiences will see completely different things from both. As I said with Batwara, I think जो point जो है film का वो बहुत ही important है, and you can watch the film for its point. And जहाँ तक Awarapan 2 का सवाल है, then I think that's a film that you watch purely for Bollywood entertainer, as it were, and what's wrong with that, yeah. And of course, Emraan Hashmi, जो मैंने आपको पहले कहा कि he seemed to have that connection because everyone thought if he can, so can I. But now he's even at this age, like a six-pack, takes his shirt off, does the hardcore action as well. So it's got, he's really come back in a way that he'd been waiting for this for a while, it seems.
And it is a very, I would just personally, as in I love his acting. I've seen a lot of his good movies and which we love. So it's good to have him lead that space in theatre because he has his audience, to be very sure. As in running it solo, it is very difficult for every actor unless he's a superstar, right? And that's the star culture that we have in India.
Yeah.
And he is one of the stars because he can pull the audience. So I think kudos to him. Thanks a lot, Mayank, for this. As in we'll end this part of the session here. We'll move to another part which we said we do every week, where you pick up under one of your underrated picks and tell me why it is underrated and what's the good memory of it of yours, right? So I think let's do it today.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you just said you're an Emraan Hashmi fan, and this is an Emraan Hashmi comeback weekend for sure. So I'm going to go back to a couple of times that he attempted to be seen as a great actor as well. He picked particular kind of scripts that were not something that would have either been offered to him or something that he would have gone for because the commercial demands were very different. And I think the first one I would pick would be Shanghai, Diwakar Banerjee ne banai thi, which was a political drama and an investigation drama, as it were, based on Costa Gavras' film Z. And वहाँ पे जो आप उनका किरदार देखेंगे in terms of how sleazy he is, and he's really worked on that part in terms of the punch, in terms of his stained teeth. He plays a porn filmmaker, a videographer, as it were, and so I mean that was a Emraan Hashmi that I hadn't expected, and for some reason now the film keeps coming back to me because of that song Dua. Which is by Mayank Shekhar, which I didn't even remember in the movie. So जब भी मैं सुनता हूँ यार ये Shanghai was a fabulous film यार, because it still survives as a track, if nothing else. And of course, for the younger generation who've not seen it, this is one of the best political dramas that we've seen come out of India in terms of its realism, of course, but in terms of Emraan Hashmi's performance too. And since we're on Hashmi, I think the other one that most people would not have seen is a film that he did with Danis Stanovic, who is the director of No Man's Land, जिन्होंने वो film जो थी उसको international best picture Oscar मिला in the same year as Lagan. So that film he beat the Lagan, as it were, in 2001 at the Academy Awards, and he did a film with Emraan Hashmi called Tigers, जो 2014 में रिलीज हुई थी in terms of a premiere हुआ था उसको टोरंटो में, but वो गायब ही हो गई. Nobody had any clue where it was. And then 4 years later in 2018, I think I chanced upon it on Z5, so which is also not one of the most popular platforms. So again, people may not have seen it for that reason. And it's an incredible and a true story about a man who fights against Nestle, and is a whistleblower, and he sees it through because there was a poisoning going on with their product, and this was in Pakistan, set entirely in Pakistan. So these are two films that have surprised me so far as Emraan Hashmi is concerned. Awarapan 2 did not surprise me. What surprised me was the level of audience interest that it had, and which is fabulous for the producers and the film industry, of course.
No, great, man. I'm as a big Shanghai fan, as a Dua fan. I would have mentioned, right, as an amazing Arijit Singh voice there. But yeah, Tiger, I would never.
Tigers, yes.
That's something Tigers I'll be looking forward to watch. But what do you think? There will be an Awarapan 3 based on the audience response?
100%. If they continue, they can continue the Awarapan 55 for all we know, and that is the nature of the movie industry, right? I mean, if they can make a 2 from a 1 that flopped, they'll certainly make a 3 from a 2 that did so exceedingly well, and that nobody could have predicted to those kind of numbers in any case.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thanks, man.
Thank you, Jamal.
It was lovely chatting to you.
Same here. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.